Welcome to the Squad Games Podcast. Squad Games Podcast.
What a long day. What a long day, Giacomo. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
It's been a long week for me, I must say. It's been a long week for me.
Wow. All 7 days.
Yeah, and
Tell
we're
me
not
about
even... So, to start off my work week, when I was going down to work in San Diego, it's like a 4-hour drive. I had to stop and do a repair on the way down. And a homeless man approached me in the middle of the night while I had a grinder, a cutoff wheel with a 7-inch cutoff wheel. No, it's not recommended for that, but I had to cut a lock, right? So I also had a knife out and I was like working, trying to get to cut a lock right on this backflow. And he came up to me and I was like, yo, dude, don't get any closer. You know, I was about to go Gears of War on him, you know, and just be like, you know, goodbye arm, you know.
Right.
He asked me to call the police and I was listening to like some rap music or something like that. And I was trying to hear what he said because, you know, I had 2 earphones in the middle of the night. I thought I was in a good area. And my phone just started to call the police. So the police were then on the line magically while I was trying to listen to this guy and listen to this. And I had 2 things in my hand. So I had to pull an ear out and I was like, what's going on? And the police was like, what do you mean what's going on? And I was like, I don't know what's going on. And he was like, can you call the cops? I was like, I'm on the phone with the cops. And he just wanted help or something. So I told him, help is on the way. You just need to stand back, you know? It was interesting.
That's a weird interaction.
Oh, I'm not done. Later on in my next day, I was like, I had to go to the bathroom like real bad the next day at work. And I walked into this Shell station. I was like, hello, can I use your restroom? And I looked at the restroom and it said, employees only. And I was like, of course, this guy's going to say no, right? I had to go real bad, you know? And he was like, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And I was like, what? And he was like, that's how you start off a conversation is good morning, you know? And I should have said, well, what if it's not in the morning? You know, that's what I should have said. I told him to fuck off and I walked out, almost pooped my pants and I went to a different place. I didn't have time to play games, you know?
No, yeah,
I had to poop.
Yeah, you're working with a bomb in there, man.
Yeah. Did not enjoy that experience. And then I went to a local game store to pick up my pre-order for my Eldar. And I had a really bad interaction with one of the store employees there. And my wife was going in to purchase the Eldar models for me for Valentine's Day with my 4-year-old son. And the kid didn't know what was going on. And I was like, dude, do you have any more information? Like, is the pre-order not here? Like, what's going on? And he was like, why are you talking to me? Like, and he said the R word. And, you know, and then he was like, I'm not the R word. And then like started yelling at me. And I told him that I didn't insinuate that or tell him that. And I was not my nicest at that moment. Because then my son started saying, Mama, what's the R word? Mama, what's the R word? You know? And, yeah, so that was another exciting experience. And then I had to contact the store owner who I've been friends with for years and tell him about his employee. So that was cool. But outside of those 3 interactions within 4 days, I've had a great time with the retail experience and just random people in life. Giacomo, what's been going on in your life, my friend?
Like in the week, not nearly as bad. I started working on my display board. That's it. That was this whole weekend, was just working on a display board.
That's exciting.
It's getting there, part by part, you know, picking up all the pieces. Yours is a funnier story. And this is the Squad Games Podcast.
Yeah. Welcome. Sorry about the 3 or 4 minute rant, everyone. Yeah, my life's been crazy for a little bit. If you're a fan of the podcast, you'll know how these things go. We like to start off with cold openings. If not, you know, welcome. You know, or goodbye if you didn't make it into the first 30 seconds.
I don't know. That was a pretty good story. It got me enthralled.
It got you enthralled? Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have went into way more depth, but I don't think people wanted to hear the long-winded, in-depth storytelling.
We're here for the cliff notes.
Yeah. Today we are looking at Hobby Track for 2025. The updated Hobby Track form, or at least how we suggest that you grade Hobby Track, and we're going to go through and tell everyone kind of what that is. And also, we're going to be talking about our events this year and what we are planning. If you are not in our area, feel free to continue to listen along, as our events are quite cool. And if you're looking to do events in your area, or you have TOs, we have a lot of relevant information about that kind of stuff. So, and we'll explain, we're also going to show you and the general TOs how to make an event on Best Coast Pairings step by step, right? So it's going to be good. I have to remake one of my events anyways because of a new date. So I could just go in and change the date, but I'm going to just make it for you. So, we'll go from there.
Let's start it.
Sure. So, Giacomo, do you want to start off with our events first, or do you want to start off with the Hobby Track?
Let's do the events first. We'll get them out of the way. People know what's going to come up, and then we can give them the whole the skinny on the rubric stuff.
Yeah. So we have a shortened season for this year. We are only going to be running events until October and then restart our events in January. So we have about how many? I think just 4, maybe 5 events. We're still debating on one because it's kind of really slammed in there. There's been a few shakeups in our calendar year this year, running into conflict with other events because things are changing and stuff like that. So we are trying to get as many events. I guess we have like 5 events. Okay. So first things first, our events. I'll just jump over to our website real quick. This is squadgames.net. We have our player packet, the terrain packet, our code of conduct. Eventually, we will get our Volcus maps up as well. We have There and Back Again, a kill team tournament. This is a tournament that we're going to be going back to our original store that we went to and started our very first event ever. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool, pretty exciting. It can hold about 34 players. So they are under new management. So we're looking forward to working with them. We have a Pacific Skirmish, or I guess I should say the dates. That's going to be March 15th. They are also something to realize is that our events are going to be limited this year. So if you want to come, make sure you get a ticket. We do have some discount codes. If you wait till the last minute to buy your ticket, those discount codes will not work anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have Pacific Skirmish as well, starting April 12th, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's a one-day event. This is one of our biggest Shark Take events. In fact, last year, it had a crazy amount of competitive players at this event and was an absolute show stunner. We had the very first time we met the Vegas guys. They came out and got second. And yeah, the event was pretty crazy. So we're looking forward to doing that again in Orange County at the Squad Marks Game Store. And then we have the All Valley Team Tournament coming up on June 21st and June 22nd. And it starts at 10 a.m. And we have a lot of really cool stuff going on with that. I'll click on it so everyone can see. So the All Valley Team Tournament is one of our biggest and most successful events outside of the Las Vegas Open. It is a 1v1v1 tournament, and we're trying a couple different things this year to see if they resonate with players. So we have our date, our time, about the location, and our admission prices down here. But, we have our rounds, so on and so forth. When you guys are creating events, you're going to want to have some of the same exact information dictating where it's going to be. We're renting a venue for this event because we can have up to 84 players, and there's no longer a store in our area that can hold that many players, unfortunately.
Yes.
Rest in peace, Games at My Place / Gameology. Rest in peace, my guys. So we have a little bit about team captains and what we expect from them, additional rules, the placings, and then we have our ticket options. So we have our standard tickets. So if you just want to come as a single player, it's $70. It's a team, it's $210. Elite tickets are really cool because they get your best value for your buck. You get $100 in store credit. So essentially you're getting in for $35. Or as a team, same thing. Each person gets 100. We also have a VIP tickets, giving a bunch of limited edition swag that we've made in custom colors that I'm never going to make again. So we also have a VIP raffle. So we're going to be making I'm going to be making a couple one-off things, raffling off to those people. We always have like some sort of raffle as well. It's not a real raffle. You get a ticket when you show up, and we give it to you. We call it the loot draw. So that's going to be pretty cool. One of those things that the VIPs can win is a team painted by me and Giacomo.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to buy the team, it's great for people coming from out of town, people who don't have our token sets or tokens or terrain even. It's really good for people looking to get a couple pieces of terrain for a couple sets of terrain for their gaming club. You can come and purchase a couple sets of terrain as a team if you buy the team ticket, because you're getting $300 in store credit plus full token sets and a bunch of other stuff. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. We'll see if it resonates with people. And then we're going to go straight into making an event, because there's two more events that I have to post. We have a possible narrative event, which is coming under fire. We'll have to see if it survives. Mm-hmm. And then we have the Midsummer Mayhem, which I'm going to make. And then we have a really big event in October that we will release more information once we nail down more stuff. That one's going to be quite big. We're going to take off November because we're going to Worlds to stream it. And then December, we're taking off, and then we're going to restart in January.
Yep.
So our events, let's go to, I guess, Best Coast Pairings. So it's called the Midsummer Mayhem, but it is no longer at September 20th because it runs into the venue that we're going to be running our October event. So we're going to create a new event. So I guess let me show you how we get to this point. So you're gonna go into Best Coast Pairings. Let me see if I can make this a little bit smaller.
So people can see it.
So we can see. Okay. So we're in Best Coast Pairings. Okay. Let's see if I can get this just a little bit better.
And this is specifically the organizers pages, correct?
Correct. So you're going to sign in to Best Coast Pairings, and then you're going to click on Organize, right? So you can sign up as a TO, or you can go to Play, right? What events you've been to, what events you're going to go to, my games, so on and so forth. But you're going to click on the Organizers tab, okay? And then you have Managed Events, Circuit Tokens, and Ticket Sales. I'm going to go over Circuit Tokens because those are pretty important. Mm-hmm. So you're going to go to New Event. You click on New Event. This is how you create an event and how we suggest. Games Workshop came up with how they suggest to run events. I have a different method. So we're going to choose Kill Team, or we're going to upload a photo. I think it's called Midsummer 2025. Over here. That is not what I wanted to do. That is my photo. Close that. Guess I have to do this. That's all right. I will do this later. So you upload your photo, this is being awesome. You're going to come here. We're going to say mid 20
Mayhem
25.
There you go.
Okay.
Easy.
Where you're going to choose your event. These are places that we've all ran events at. Currently, it's either going to be at Green Tower or the Residence Inn. Currently, that's kind of where it's slated. You're going to choose your start date. Currently now, it has been pushed to August 9th starting at 10 a.m. Okay. And it's going to end, let's say, August, there we go. We're going to go to August 10th at, let's go 8 p.m. So let's say it's a 2-day event. Okay. Who knows if it will be. So we're going to come here. We're going to control paste. This is the Midsummer Mayhem. And if you want to embolden, you have to do what you do in Discord. You put 2 stars and then 2 stars. And this is our birthday year, our birthday event every year. So we give out extra prizes and stuff like that. You're going to put the date. Obviously, the date's wrong, but we're just going to move on. We have our approved ops, our round length, exactly what I just showed you in the last one. And now we're going to go to game configuration. Game configuration, it is a singles event. Let's say it's going to be 6 rounds this year because we had over 40 players attend last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a 2-hour game. You can make whatever you want. Games Workshop, I had this interesting thing told to me. There's a general misconception that Games Workshop's Worlds event is 4 hours, which means that it is 4 hours or 3-hour games. But the misconception is that it is not competitive. I was talking to, was it Marty? I was talking to somebody. I forget exactly who it was. I was talking to Mike, our TO for LVO. And if you think about it like this, Kill Team is competitive at different times. There could be Blitz Kill Team in 45 minutes, right? We have Kill Team Standard at 2 hours. And then there's, let's say, Kill Team Classical, 4-hour rounds, right? All of those are viable formats, right? So if you want to do 4-hour rounds, just realize that, just see if your event space can hold something like that. If you're trying to do 1.5-hour rounds or something like that, just be aware that people might complain, but there are different versions of Kill Team at different round lengths. But some people do find it difficult to complete a game in under 2 hours. So going back to here. All right. So we're going to click on singles. And then we're going to, instead of use recommended, I'm going to click on custom. So this is your additional game settings. So people that are listening to on the podcast, I'm going through Best Coast Pairings and showing people how to click on stuff and do some stuff. So we're going to you could do ranked tables or random tables. Typically we have 2 different styles of terrain at events. And if you have 2 different styles or 3 different styles, you don't want to do ranked tables because the best players are always going to be playing on table 1, 2, and 3. Unless if you're moving those numbers around throughout the event, which is more stress on you, it's something you don't want to do. So we do random so that everyone just pops around. You could always turn the very last round and you can click on ranked before you do pairings. And then the top tables will be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. So at least you could walk around those and make sure everything's friendly, So we're going to do self-scoring. We're not going to use a pin. You do not require lists anymore, right? We don't need lists in general. Kill Team Season 2 is incorrect. This is a very, very long time ago. I don't know why that is under recommended. We're going to go to Kill Team Season 4 Beta V2. Don't know why it's so long. It is what it is. Pairing metrics. Typically, Games Workshop says you're going to use tournament points, victory points, tournament point strength of schedule, and then random. What I do is I do tournament points, I deselect everything else, and I just go random. And what that means is that you are literally saying whoever has the same tournament points, they're going to pair into each other. So anyone who wins a game is going to get 3 points. Anyone who draws is going to get 1 point. Anyone who loses gets 0 points. So after round 1, it's going to randomly assign winners into winners and losers into losers and draws into draws. Okay. And if there's not multiple draws, then sometimes those will pair up and sometimes they will pair down. The reason why I don't do victory points is because I do not want to punish people at events for doing well or doing poorly. This varies the win path so that you're not always against the most difficult players, hard players playing into hard players. It disincentivizes you to do well at the event, which is ultimately a bad thing, in my opinion. A lot of my opinions, other TOs will not like, and that's okay.
Yep.
The viewers can like it. So we're going to go into placings metrics. That's what is next. Games Workshop, they believe this is what Games Workshop says. We're going to go with tournament points, victory points, tournament points, strength of schedule, and random. I don't know if this is what they want actually, but for our stats pulling and all that kind of stuff, we want to turn on completed crit ops, completed kill ops, completed attack ops, and primary points. You can keep tournament points, strength of schedule, or opponent game win percentage. We'll turn that on as well. Essentially, what this is doing is in this specific order, it is taking all of these things and going to pair people or place people in this order, depending on how people play. Personally, I like to do kill op in front of crit op. Yes, there's a glitch here, and I'm not going to worry about it. These two are the lower ones, anyways. And then we're going to go with primary. Then we're going to go crit ops and tac ops. Most of the people currently are playing primary points as their tac op, so we're just going to call it good from there. Ignore all these other little blue buttons, even though it looks like I turned on more stuff. I didn't. It's just a glitch currently with Best Coast Pairings. So we're going to click on the very next button because that's the end of that page. You can say manually enter rosters during registration. So you're going to this is telling you that you can manually gather players stuff, right? That's not what we want to do. We want to use BCP's online reservation. If you are a subscribed member to Best Coast Pairings, you could then click the next button that says private event so that when people buy the tickets, you gather their emails and then you send out a code to those emails. And then when they come to Best Coast Pairings, they input a code and then you do. This is something that like Nova does, these really large events. I have never seen the need to do it. We run the Las Vegas Open. We have 153 players. A lot of times, like you can gather it yourself and you can input them yourself, or you can say like, hey, it's open. If you paid for a ticket, just register. And then you could go back and like double check if people have gotten things and not, right? We don't need to gather people's shipping details. Now we need to go tickets. Let's say there's going to be 40 tickets available at this event. I'm going to place 40. I'm going to say that the price is $0 because I am charging tickets on my website. If you want to use Best Coast Pairings, they offer it for you and you have to link your bank account and a few other things. But yeah. And then we're going to say player check-in or players must check in with the organizer in person. We're not. We're going to say players can check in themselves within 24 hours on their phones. Now we're going to say create event. Boom. Your event is done. Your event has been made. Okay. We're going to look at our public view now, which is over here. Public view this is what it looks like. Sorry, there's no pretty picture. It is what it is. So it says 40 out of 40 tickets remaining. And then this is all the previous work that we did with all our little stars and stuff like that. Right. So this is how it looks. And now I'm going to show you how to submit for an ITC ticket and a hobby track ticket, because we're going to go into hobby track next. So we're going to go to tournament circuit tokens. So I guess we can click on organize tournament circuit tokens, and we're going to click on new token. Okay. We're going to say Kill Team Hobby event, and then we're going to go Midsummer Mayhem 2024 submit. And then I'm going to say new token circuit Kill Team ITC Midsummer Mayhem 2024. It should be 2025, but that's besides the point. And then you click it. So right now, I believe ITC is not accepting 2025 tokens. But when ITC does, you would then click on the 2025 event. It's the same process. For some reason, right now they're not doing it. I don't know. The new season still hasn't started, which is generally odd. But that is how you create an event on Best Coast Pairings, and as you can see, it's right here now. On August 9th, I will get this image over here sooner or later. Next part up is Hobby Track. G, I want you to take the lead on this since we literally just did it.
We literally finished it. So
I will zoom in a tad.
For anyone familiar with Hobby Track, we have previously created a form so people could follow and they can grade their players with how well they're doing in the hobby sphere. What we found is, as larger events happen, we needed a new way to grade, and also since we started doing showcases now for those really big ones, we wanted a way to do that as well. So this was designed, and we have two methods for you guys to follow if you wish. But we recommend this newer one going forward for more players.
It's called the showcase method. The other thing about Hobby Track is Games Workshop currently doesn't have any way that they say you should do this, right? I've spoken to a lot of people. Me and Giacomo kind of created this on our own, and then we kind of talked to Games Workshop, and we've kind of made our own kind of style, right? Now, if no one knows what Hobby Track is, Hobby Track's been around for a very long time for Warhammer and AOS, and Kill Team didn't have it. And when I became an organizer, I was very upset. So me and Giacomo both made it, and I manually tracked hundreds and hundreds of players' Hobby Track scores myself on my website until Games Workshop finally took it up on Best Coast Pairings, and now we have it there.
Thank goodness.
So now we are here to try and inform and help guide the community in the best way that we see fit to judge Hobby Track in a faster manner. Typically, this has always been an arduous process, but we are doing our best to make it simple and easier for everyone in 2025. So, G, dive in.
Let's dive in. Okay, so we already mentioned how to apply for the Hobby Track token. You saw that a little bit earlier, or you listened to it a little bit earlier, whatever one you're on. We have a few rules that you do for Hobby Track. This is kind of just like guidelines we recommend people do because, you don't want someone to come with like a 14-foot board or something trying to show off 10 models or something, So having
we've
like a limitation.
We've learned from old Warhammer events that some people would bring in a 6-foot by 4-foot table to show off their 2,000 point army, and they would just go nuts, right? And Warhammer ITC back in the day instituted a rule where they would limit board size. So as Kill Team, we were like, yo, if somebody brings in a 6-foot by 2-foot board to show off a Kill Team, there's not going to be enough space for other people's stuff. Right. So we had to influence this. Yeah.
So that's an easy one. Just follow that. It's not really too bad. So you got that. You can check that out. We're going to have this posted as well, a nicer version, a little more dolled up. But for the most part, this is pretty much there. So, you can score up to 5 different times throughout the year. So if you, let's say you just started
at least currently
right now, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps it'll change. But right now, 5 times. So let's say your first entry to Hobby Track wasn't super hot. You didn't really know about it as well. And then now you want to be more competitive about it. So you start traveling to events, and especially ours, obviously, and other ones that want to use this rubric as well. And, you can start increasing your score so you can get the best possible scores. Because, that's what we want. That's how you compete with the hobby instead of, me, I'm not as good of a player. I think I'm a better hobbyist. So that's how I would compete when I'd go to Warhammer events. Dakotah and I wanted to bring that to you guys. So here we are.
Exactly. So event scoring, I'll take over this part. Best Coast Pairings does not consider the score that you input as a judge, right? Let's go over to Best Coast Pairings real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. So people on the podcast, I'm clicking on Best Coast Pairings, and then I'm going to click on something called, let's move this. I'm going to click on something called Soft Hobby Scores. Okay. So when I click on Soft Hobby Scores, okay, all the players will populate in this area. Okay. And then you will select a player, and right next to them, you write their hobby track score. At the bottom of the page, you would then select save. Okay. What that does, if you don't select save, it will delete all the information you just did. Okay. So select save for heaven's sake. All right. So those are the two buttons that you would click on to then submit. And then when you're going to submit the entire thing, I guess I'll show you, you would go to placings, you would go to options, and then you would say submit to circuit. And then it's going to give you an option to use your tokens, which will be 1 and then 2. So yeah, that's important. Okay. Going back to Hobby Track, I apologize. So they don't consider the raw scores that you put in. So you could have a Hobby Track score of 1,000, right? That judge could be like, yeah, I'm going to give you 1,000 because you're number 1, my guy. Well, it doesn't matter because it's just like your placing at the event. It doesn't matter if you score 1,000 TAC op points in an event. It doesn't matter, right? ITC is going to give you a number of Hobby Track is going to give you a number of points based off of their own formula, which is typically influenced by larger events and the more players. So if you have more players, more rounds, those are typically the two biggest multipliers. So if you run a 9-round event or a 10-round event, your score is going to be higher. If you have only 10 players in that, it's not going to be as much as LVO's 200 or 158 player 9-round event, right? Because you don't have the players to make it worth more points, but your rounds will definitely increase your score. Okay. Yeah. So Hobby Track scores, we have 2 different methods. We have our old method, which is the showcase, and then the painting rubric. And the other one is the showcase. G, do you want to go over kind of like how we do the showcase?
Yeah. So with the showcase, we find it's most players will have a general score that fall under a certain category, as you'll see here in the sliding scale. So obviously, if you see an incomplete team, it's not done. You can't really score it. It's not finished. So you get an incomplete score. Then you have battle ready. So, you're getting into the hobby, you're adding your stuff. You get anywhere from 1 to 30 points. This is just a general idea of where you want to kind of place them. So everyone has a score. Then you have the same for parade and then for showcase. Now with showcase, this is where it gets interesting. Once you get to a showcase level, you're generally asked to put your models on a separate part, that we want to do further grading for. And then we'll get into that part as well. And this is generally designed for larger events because it would just take so long if you did each individual one for each individual team. So having a sliding scale makes it really easy to kind of determine, all right, battle ready, this is how much points battle ready is probably going to earn. And same thing with parade, they're probably going to earn this much. It's just a simple way to do it.
So typically the highest battle ready is going to score is 30 points. Now you could be lazy and just be like, okay, every team that has 3 colors on them is 30 points. Every team that looks better than that and has like all this other kind of stuff, right, is parade level, right? They're clean, they're well painted. They have like maybe a layer or 2 of highlighting and stuff like that. And they look good, but maybe they're not the top 20%, right? So you're going to give everyone there 50, right? Let's say there's a couple people that are like, you think better than parade, but didn't quite make it to showcase. Feel free to give them any points between 50 and 70. It doesn't have to be like, you got 50 points because this document said so. No, it doesn't have to be like that, right? The important part of this is the showcase. So you would say this is like a 2-step grading process. You're going to walk around through all of your peoples during a round, and you're going to be like, that's a showcase, that's a showcase, that's a showcase, that's a showcase. You get those players' names. That's a parade, that's a parade, that's a parade, that's a parade. You get those players' names. Everything else is battle ready or incomplete. Okay. So they all kind of, the rest of the team people score the rest. Those showcase players are then going to be asked to come to lunch, or if it's a 2-day event, they're going to be asked to come to your showcase at the end of the day, right? And that's where you're going to get them to sit down, put their models on their display board or not display board, and then really look at those models really in depth and judge them first through third or first through 10 or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt to add more players to your showcase. It just makes people feel better. It is a better feeling because like we don't want to gatekeep in this hobby. If you think that somebody put enough effort into it, absolutely bring them up. You know, that is something that's very important, is to recognize people's strengths in the hobby. Okay. Yeah. So bring up the showcase, and you could do it during lunch. If it's a 1 day, you can do it during, after your first or second day, depending on how many rounds you have. Okay. This is what we then judge on, is a rubric between our judges. If you're just one person, you can print out a couple of these, or just realize that these are out of 13 points each category, and then this one is out of 4 points. Okay. G, do you want to go over this categories for us?
Absolutely. So let's start with models. So you have your technical skills. So this is like you see in the description here, non-metallic metals, highlighting, blending, OSL. So anyone who's using like advanced techniques, and they're how well they're executing it and like pulling it off, right? So you see like, he's really good at blends, but he's
painting eyeballs,
exactly,
having eyeballs painted,
like hardcore details. But maybe he's just not quite there with NMM yet, and that's okay. So you give him the score from 1 through 5 for the points, and because this is kind of like when it comes to painting, this is a big part of the model, is you're judging this big portion, right?
Yes.
Then you have composition, which is effective.
Very subjective.
Very subjective. Because again, at this point, your players have already scored 70 points. So now we're just trying to break and see who's in the top 3, or top 8, whatever you want to do your cut. So then you have your composition. It's placements of elements. So like maybe where a weapon's placed on a model or something, or like little trinkets and things, so it looks nice. Because you can make something too busy.
You can make something way too busy. You can also have too small of a display board for your team. You can also have too big of a display board for your team, or too crowded, or too light. It's like, how does it look? How does it vibe? How does it feel? Right? When you're typically doing stuff like, is there tiers? Is there layers? Does it need it? Is it blocked off from the light? Is there like sometimes we see some really good display boards, but at the venues and stuff like that, they have like a roof or ceiling and you can't see the models. That's just a composition problem, right? Like you can't, you got to plan for everything.
Think about photography, right? Just like in composition, your subject's important. And if I can't see your subject, then what am I taking a picture of? Right. So if this was going to be photographed, this is kind of how it wants to look. You have your color theory next, which is, deciding what works, your triads, things like that. Because you can always be you can execute it perfectly, but choose some tacky colors. We have seen that happen. So we like to encourage people.
Sometimes people go way too hard in red and green, right? And they're not the red orcs, right? And you're just like, oh, where's Santa? Santa's missing.
It just didn't work out.
And it's just like, it might be executed greatly, but like G said,
just didn't work out. And you have basing. This is a big one too. I think some people might not always think about basing, but basing's a really good way. Like when I think of basing, I think of like a light under the model. And it's really elevating everything else about the paint job. Because a basing, you can make it where it's really a one-tone model, because your basing just blends in too much. So you really want to be able to distinguish that. And then like it really emphasizes the color of your model. Like when you take a picture of a miniature, background's important, like a black background, a gray background, or a white background, because it's going to emphasize the color, the contrasting color of it. And you want to do the same thing with your basing. And of course, using elements. So, like we don't just want to use the Martian Iron Earth pot, which I've done definitely before in my lifetime when I started. You want to add little extra elements to kind of make it feel more lived in. And that's always important too.
Sand, skulls, mounds, cacti, stuff like that,
Yeah.
Another thing that's important though is like not making your team blend in. So unfortunately, a lot of people are like, oh, it's realistic to have my white models in snow or my desert camo guys in the desert. Well, unfortunately, the base just blends into the model at that point, right? So you want everything in miniatures is exaggerated,
Yes.
right? So a lot of times white models are going to be on gray. They're not going to be like in Martian desert, but they might be on like battling in the city or something like that. So while it may be realism and thematic, we don't paint for realism and thematic. We paint to make things look good.
Right. Like even in the hardcore masterclass stuff that you see, like they still overemphasize on purpose. Because that's at that scale you have to. We move on to display boards next. So
modeling.
Oh, sorry. Yes, modeling. My mistake.
Yeah.
So this one is actually kind of a secret one because you almost don't want to notice it. So like that's how good you've executed it that it feels like that would have been part of the kit. So you may want to ask questions as like a discovery level where you ask them, oh, did you use any 3D printed parts or like did you sculpt the joint here? Does it look different, right? And then you can really find out like that's a really good job. I did not even know that was that. So, that's a level of execution. You don't necessarily always have to have it, right? Like, I'm not always a big modeler myself. I tend to like the kit a lot. I might kit bash, but I never do some crazy stuff where I've seen some of my friends who like absolutely do some wild stuff, but they're better sculptors than me. So, it's nice to see this because it really like makes it their own. It's really custom. It's very nice.
Yep.
Now we can move to the display board.
Yes.
So for those of you following along, listening or watching, so the display board has a lot of the same technical skills you got to use on your miniatures. Like you still have to know how to use your paint. You still need to apply effects if you're using like fire or something. Anything on the board that you could translate into a model should translate into your display board as well. Same goes for composition. Like if you're putting fence elements or something, you don't want them to be all over the place. You want them to sit in a certain spot that works. Like if you're going to put a tank or something, you don't want it right in the center where it blocks everything. You want it where it naturally would flow when you're looking at it from your eyes. So again, composition. Same thing with color theory. Again, choose the colors that match the team, choose that match together. Like obviously you're probably not going to have Martian snow. I don't think that exists. Maybe someone could pull it off. I couldn't, but you're probably not going to have that as a composition for colors in your theory. And then basing, same thing, be consistent with your team so it looks all together.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen people submit teams and then they are not the same. So they have like a dirt displays on their miniatures, and when they put them on their display boards, the display boards are into the dark or so on and so forth, right? We want to see the carpets match the drapes. I think that's
the carpet matches the base.
Yeah, let's have the carpet match the bases, right? Also, like, are they inset? Are the bases inset? Are they on top? Right? There's a bunch of different things that kind of add value. If they're inset, do they match the surrounding stuff? Do they have like the same stones going through? Right? Are the models in the right place? Are they just randomized? Like when you're at the showcase level, we're really picking apart and really being hypercritical of every single detail. And so should you as a judge, right? Yes. You can't just look at it and be like, "Wow, good." You got to have a little bit. You got to have a little bit of love to do hobby track.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's all perfect. I would have. I'm glad you added that because then we kind of move on to the next thing, which is modeling. So this is using like, let's say you're using water resin for the first time. How well you executed that on a board, or let's just say you're not using the GW pot. You're using something from AK or Vallejo. Works very similar, but has different forms of application. You're using foam and cutting tools to get it to look a certain way. These are all elements you'd have in modeling now because you're putting it together. And I think that's about, whether you're 3D printing something too, that's another cool one. How well does that work? Does it feel like it's 3D printed? Or does it feel like it's its own thing? That's all important. Absolutely.
Are those 3D prints smoothed out, or can you see the filament lines, or can you see the resin layer lines? Right. Like, Have you sanded it? Like there's a lot of small things that when we're looking at these high levels, who gets first and who gets second. Sometimes it's, did you paint the underneath of the cloak? Did you paint underneath the tree? Stuff like that. Sometimes. Just Rule of Cool is my favorite though.
This one is probably the most subjective one there is. Because let's say you got 4 people who are exactly the same, but you know what? A space marine floating in the cosmos is just kind of cool. And sometimes like a guardsman in his base is just like, I expected that, right? It didn't really like explode with excitement, but that other one sure did. And that's when you're just like, you know what? He executed the lights. It was cool. The smoke effects were nice. Little things like that really like add, like really push up. They put music in there. They really just punched it up just a little bit more to just be like, you get the 4. This guy gets the 1.
They did lights, they did fog, they did sound. But the problem is sometimes when people do those things, it drowns out and it detracts from the model. If they put in fog and it's like, ooh, now I can't see the models anymore. Or the sound is just glaringly oppressive, right? I think that was one of my things is with my big display board. My Predator music was fucking loud. And sometimes lighting can detract immensely.
Yeah.
From stuff. There's a very tasteful way to do LEDs, and then there's a very untasteful way to do LEDs, right?
Yes.
So you really have to be. Yeah, you have to be really careful sometimes. Are you going with a night scene? Why are the lights on during the day? Does it look like a night scene? Is there a backdrop? And also the biggest thing, Giacomo, this is one of your biggest pet peeves. How many times has it been seen before?
Big
somebody just
times.
Does the same team keep being brought to tournament after tournament after tournament, and eventually after you've seen it a couple times, you're like, man, I've seen this so many times, it's lost its rule of cool.
Right.
Like I've seen it 3 times this year. Like it's going to get 0. I've seen it so many times, I want to see something new. You're a great artist. I have 6 weeks in between my events, it's been 18 weeks.
Exactly. Like, and I get it. Sometimes you don't always have time. I've been notorious for doing this back in the day. Like and this is where I kind of learned it was like, I would just keep doing the same thing over and over. And I just kind of noticed judges wane interest in something. And it happens because once you've seen something a bunch, it's like, okay, it was cool the first time, but if you're going to keep entering it, I don't think I care anymore. So like, if you can, and I understand we might not always have the time, but if you have the time and you want to make something new, why not? Right? It's a new project. Yep. And like Dakotah said, you're a great artist. So I'm sure you're going to do something amazing. And again, it never has to be super huge, right? You can make something really small and just capture. I think there's an novitiate display we once saw. Like it was just an individual one sitting in the little thing. And that one was small, but it's impressive, right? I can't remember who did that one. Liam,
yeah. Chiller. Yeah. So, there's a couple interesting things with Rule of Cool is like, sometimes you haven't seen something in a really long time and somebody brings it back and you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But if you've seen it 12 times, the Rule of Cool also sometimes helps if you have the same player coming to your event over and over and over and winning every single time, right? Sometimes that can really drown the want for people to succeed and be better, right? So sometimes the Rule of Cool can really help dissuade that, just because, it's like, oh, somebody else brought something really cool this time. Is it as good? Maybe not, but this guy got Rule of Cool, this guy didn't. So this guy wins. You know what
just
I mean?
Yeah. Super subjective.
Yeah, absolutely subjective. Next up is our painting rubric. People will be very familiar with this if you've done this before. This is our old rubric. We only suggest this if you're going to be judging people for 8 players or less. This is a very time-consuming thing. You can also use this one if you are looking at doing the top players as well. You can look at them and be like, all right, like you can go through each and every single thing. There is subjective points in here, so you can subjectively give somebody up to 40 points based off just painting. These are kind of the things that we've mentioned in the past, but I feel the other way is just way faster to judge, just based off of just quick instincts of looking at a team. This is a very long process to do. If you've done it before, you know.
Yep.
We used to do it for 2 or 3 years, and then last year, halfway through last year, we swapped to a variation of the older system, right? Of just being like, hey, 1 out of 100, let's give a team, and then we're going to bring it back for the top 10 teams or the top 12 teams, and go back and really look at those to see what is the best at the event, you know. And then we judge those and we put those in that soft hobby score area in the Best Coast pairings.
Yes.
So terms and definitions, we have layering, kit bashing, conversions, composition, but photographability and judges' subjective score. So if you want to have a little bit more, if you hate listening to stuff, I don't know why you're listening to a podcast, but we do have the red definitions of what we think they are. And then we're going to have a couple URLs specifically to each rubric, and they will also be on our website. Though by the time this video goes up, I will be working. So it might not be up until Wednesday or Thursday, but those will be there before the weekend in case you're planning on using these at one of your events this weekend. So, yeah, that is pretty much what this is like. The title of this should be Tips and Tricks for TOs or something like that. How to run events in Hobby Track.
Yeah, something like that, because that's really what it is. You get to teach people how Best Coast pairing works. Maybe they're interested in running an event, but they were not really sure, or they want to implement Hobby. And this is like an easy way to do it, almost like a step-by-step with.
I haven't seen anyone make a YouTube video on how to use Best Coast pairings in general, right?
There you go. We're the first.
So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make something like this.
Could be a little intimidating. I'm not going to lie. When I looked at it, I was like, what?
Yeah, it can be. But it is really simple once you kind of understand. It does take a little while, especially if you're going to add custom art. You don't have to, but it does add value, or at least perceived value to your event, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to the All Valley, and I'm also looking forward to October, our large event this year. It's going to be our other large event because we already ran LVO. So looking forward to a lot of fun stuff, and looking forward to sharing more and more as we learn stuff with the community. And hopefully you as tournament organizers or even players are finding some of this information useful, or if you're Hobby Track enthusiasts, finding what we value as judges useful. Because I will tell you, there's not every judge is going to value everything that we like, right? Like Games Workshop judges might value heavy metal painting styles or GW painting styles or just stuff like that. I don't know, you have to kind of paint to your audience sometimes, I think this is a very good generalistic look at, like, we value technical painting skills. We value composition, color theory, modeling, and kind of the whole shebang. So as long as you paint something dope, you bring it to events, you do cool stuff, and you're not a ding dong, you win stuff.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah.
And you'll make friends. You'll find all sorts of hobby friends.
Yeah. You share and exchange hobby tips and tricks. You're like, what's Hobby Highlander? Why don't I use AK Black? Wow. It's because it's the best black paint out there. You should watch the show and see why,
Absolutely.
It's by far the best black out there that we've tested. So when we go back to test black again, we'll have to put it to the test against a bunch of other paints. Yeah, one day. So I think, G, do you have any shout outs?
I do. You can join the conversation in the comments below or on our Discord channel, Discord server, Discord channel, whatever, Discord. It's the Squad Games Discord. Link in the description if you're listening to this on mobile, or the link is also on the YouTube page, the comment, whatever that the details page part is. Tell us what you think. How would you run an event? How do you like Hobby Track? What do you plan on doing for the hobby this year? Follow us on our socials. We're at Squad Games Entertainment on YouTube, or on Squad Games Entertainment on Instagram. And if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to check out the Hobby Highlander. You could watch the black episode. We just mentioned it now. And you could kind of determine, like, hey, maybe that is a good color or not.
Or the white or the silver or the blue or the gold.
All these new ones coming out pretty soon too.
Mm-hmm.
And more to come. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I want to shout out our sister channel, ran by Saya, Tabletop Mayhem. She's doing a lot of really fun, short lore bits and a lot of great shorts for YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Go ahead and go subscribe, like, and comment that channel. And, shout out to all my hobbyists out there and all my TOs out there. TOs don't get nearly as much love as they should. You guys are the backbone of this community. And without you, we wouldn't have events, right? Without your long hours, your dedication to painting terrain, your dedication to running events and making the best events possible, we all salute you. Our hobbyists, you win before you even get there because you bring badass models to the table, which is showing extreme respect to everyone that you play against. So shout out to the hobbyists, and shout out to you, G. I appreciate you and love you, man.
Shout out to you as well, man.
Yeah. So until next time, everyone.
See ya.
Squad out. Is that a thing?
It is now.
The Squad Games Podcast is a production of Squad Games Entertainment. For more information on Squad Games, please visit our website at squadgames.net or check out our YouTube channel at Squad Games Entertainment.